Then they begin to tell Kenyans, oh, you know, Parliament did not play its part, or, you know, development partners are not coming through.
Let me stop you now and go to Betty. Okay. And maybe, Betty, your response to that, the fact that, one, the opposition feels that they were ignored, and two, some of the issues that he has raised.
Yes, first and foremost, I want to thank the opposition, so to speak, in terms of the way they approached this manner. There was a response, and indeed when the commissioners were I mean, recently, was it 2 days ago? They did not storm into the office. Yeah, it was a cordial discussion, I must say. And therefore, you know, when you use words like storming, it looks like there's acrimony, there isn't that kind of harmony required. And want to encourage that kind of discussion, that kind of collaboration. They came to the boardroom, they had a meeting with the commissioners, and there was good discussion around the methodology that we applied in terms of this BVRK distribution, okay? In terms of the distance being used as opposed to population. So that was basically the discussion, and I must say that that is the way to go, because many a times, like for example, this circumstance, we don't have adequate funding to go to every polling station, as would be the desire of every wananchi, including the political leadership. And I think we've discussed this before in this particular program.
Okay.
Yes.
Javas, any concerns that you have, given that the IEBC say that, one, they have constraints of funding, and they're working with what they have to the best of what they have. Any concerns that you would have as a governance expert?
Thank you. First, the right to vote is one of those fundamental rights of any free nation. And we know very well that as a young democracy, we've come a long way in making sure that a large number of the people who've attained the age of the majority get a chance to register as voters, get a chance to choose their leaders. And looking at it from that perspective and appreciating the IEBC as a fundamental constitutional commission, we know very well that hitherto the IEBC has tried to do or to execute its mandate. However, much more would have been expected, because the issues that have been raised by various stakeholders over time are issues that need the critical attention of that institution. And I think Parliament needs to make sure that the IEBC, just like other constitutional commissions, are sufficiently funded to execute their mandates, because that's the expectation of the Constitution when you look at Article 248, Article 249, that establishes and grants the powers to these commissions. Because when you look at even the exercise as it's going on right now, far too many people have not collected their IDs, which means they will not have a chance to register as voters. And if you look back in retrospect, you realize that the exercise of voting in this country still remains there is a challenge when it comes to civic education, political education that the people need. And I think that's one angle that the IEBC needs to take much more seriously. Because throughout the period, for example, a 5-year period, we need to make sure that the populace, the potential voters, get to know critical issues. Because like when you look at issues as they are right now, critical civic education has not been taking place, possibly for the reasons of limited funding, as Madam has indicated. And it will be until possibly the 11th hour in 2017, a few months closer to the election, then civic education and the necessary political education is rolled out. I think there is need to start rethinking the need to help upscale, the need to make sure that various stakeholders and government provides the sufficient funding to a critical institution that the IEBC is. Because when saying the opposition, as Mr. Akala has indicated.
Sorry, I'll need to cut you short there. I'm told by director that we need to cross over to Uganda just to see what is happening, and we'll come back to the discussion. Just hold that thought. But Uganda goes to the polls today, and let's cross over to Kampala, Uganda, where voting hopefully has begun, and we have our reporter there. Do let us know what is happening, Solomon.
And also, earlier on, once again, tell us what time you do expect Dr. Kizza Besigye to be casting his ballot.
Well, I begin with the last one, not the least, and that is the time that Dr. Kizza Besigye will be casting their ballot. We were told that he will be done by at least around 10 o'clock.
Right.
Now, that is, we presume that at that time he will have cast his ballot right over here because his residence is just behind this polling station here at Rwakabengo Health Center 3. But that aside, of course, here last night we moved around, and police as well as the military was moving around, hovering within this, the town here in Rukunjiri, trying to make sure that everything is fine, and so there was no commotion at all. We were even able to move by some clubs around and those other places near, you know, the entertainment areas, and people were there, you know, they were there. It was simply a normal day for them, and all of them were waiting, although we were told that some of them traveled to the other places like Kanungu and then the various areas that are around this place to Kabale to go and cast their ballot, because some of them only work in Rukunjiri, and then they registered to vote in those other places. And so I think most of the people had gone down to the villages where they are supposed to vote away from the center. However, everything was just a normal, it was normal.
Well, when you talk about entertainment centers, I would say that explains the freshness I am seeing on your face, Moses. But aside from that, what could be the estimate? What could be the estimate of the number of people who are standing in the lines? About which number would you estimate the voters or who are standing in the lines to cast their ballot now?
Well, like we talked to the returning officer, some polling stations here I think have over 300 people that vote in them, depending on how big they are. However, we'll also be getting to know the exact number of the people, for instance, who vote at this polling station. We wanted to talk to the returning officer at this particular polling station. If you can allow me, we can walk to where she is right now. And so we are walking to the returning officer here. Probably she could be able to tell us. Madam, sorry to interrupt you. I know you are very busy. Just briefly, we want to talk to you about this polling station. We know that you are the returning officer. Just tell us, what are your names?
I'm called Jackie Ntebarukure.
Okay. Just tell us, how is the exercise now that you have started?
Exercise is going on fairly.
Yeah. And so we want to know what is the estimate of the number of voters at this particular polling station?
How many are there? Around 800.
Around 800.
Yeah.
And do you think all of them will show up?
Yeah, they will come. Definitely they will come.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is the word from the returning officer there, telling us how ready. Yes. Okay. She's the returning officer from the Southern Division, and she's been telling us that they have over 800 voters at this particular polling station, and so that is what is happening here, Mildred.
All right. Earlier on, actually, what I wanted was an estimate of the number of people you are seeing in the line at the electoral, at Rwakabengo Health Center 3 now. If you could just look around and estimate, do some mathematics. How many do you estimate to be at that polling station at this point in time, lining up?
This could be around 100 people, I think, 100 people on the line, because the line goes up to the road. It's crossing outside the gate, because this place has a gate. It has a kind of fence, and so the line goes right outside the gate. It's about 80 plus.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Moses Welgembe. We'll be getting back to you in just a bit. Uganda decides today, and the only place to be is NBS Television. On social media, get us at NBS Television, which is our Facebook page, or you can get us at NBS TV on Twitter. Let's share our thoughts.
That's our sister station in Uganda, NBS, and sorry about that, it's not Solomon Sarwanja, but we're getting a feed from the station there, and that's Kampala going to the polls today, and of course we'll keep tabs on that as the day goes along. Here in Kenya, of course, we're preparing on the 8th of August. We're going to be going to the polls as well, 8th of August 2017, and as a result, beginning Monday, the mass voter registration exercise began, and that's a discussion we're having here on State of the Nation. And before we went for that short break, or rather that, well, before we crossed over to Uganda, Javas, you are mentioning, or you are making it clear, the importance of voter registration and the electorate knowing what is happening. Do you feel, from your opinion, that there is enough information to the electorate regarding the exercise that is going on?
Not at all. Not right now. I think there is much more that could have been done. And if this would have started a little earlier, IEBC to start going out very clear and communicating to the, the people of Kenya that there is this critical exercise coming up, and engaging, of course, beforehand with the various stakeholders to make sure that all these concerns are ironed out, all these creases are ironed out in good time. But most importantly is the anticipation of the millions of Kenyans who are going to be registered anew, or the fresh voters, the fresh, those who are going to be registered. Mm-hmm. And you realize that far too many people would have wanted to be registered as voters in various, areas. Some would have wanted maybe to prepare in good time and, get time off work to go and register and all that. And possibly, while I think it is good that there's the schedule for all this process between now and the next election was released in good time, the voter registration exercise maybe would have been given a little, more time to make sure that all the people who want to register as voters get the time to register as
although
voters.
the voter registration is continuous, but let me let Betty answer to that.
I think there are two things here. There is the issue of culture. There's a culture in this country, and with all due respect to Javas, there's the issue of people running towards the last minute. It doesn't matter how many drums you'll beat, so long as people know 2017 is 18 months away, there is actually never that urgency to register. And it's a culture we've actually noticed for quite a while. I mean, if you look back at 2012, because people knew 2013 was just like 2 months away, then there was a lot of excitement and anxiety to have people registered. But right now, we've been having continuous voter registration at constituency level, and Mheshimiwa alluded to that. But still, you find people are not quite keen. And if you go down to the roots and ask people, Mwananchi, why are you not registering? They say, 2017 iko mbali. So that's one other issue that we need to deal with. Number two, of course, is the funding issue that we've discussed just here. But I also want to mention the issue of the wards and allay the fears that have been raised by our brother here. You see, when you look at the Constitution, the wards are a unit that is well recognized. And the wards are a delimitation that took place, taking into cognizance, one, not only the population, but also demographic trends. So already, it's a recognized unit that we are using to do voter registration. Mm-hmm. I know it would have been favorable to have every center have a kit, but again, can you just be fair to the commission? On the one hand, I just want to finish by saying, on the one hand, we are expected to be independent, okay? Independent, actually, I should not even quote it, independent. And therefore, given 500 million, we should sit around the table as the leadership of the commission and allocate these funds and make sure that it's basically spread across the country. On the other hand, when you give that rollout as a plan to undertake the exercise again, you hear there's a lot of discontent. Mm-hmm. Yes, so I think on the one hand, let's be very honest with ourselves. Where does independence start and stop? And what is the duty of every other one person, whether political players, whether parliament, whether civil society, whether wananchi, everybody should take their role.
Okay.
Elections is not just a matter of the IEBC, it's a national process.
Right.
Yes.
I'll come to you, Noah. I know you want to respond to that, but let me just first of all hear from Irongo in terms of independence. Do you feel like the opposition is probably infringing on the independence of the IEBC?
Yes, for several reasons. One, the opposition seems to think as if Kenya has a bottomless pit of money. No, we don't have. We have other pressing needs. We do have schooling, we do have healthcare, we do have infrastructure, and therefore we cannot be able to appropriate money to this exercise wholesomely. Otherwise, they may be setting up for failure as Jubilee, because we shall have voted all money into voting process. We forget about schools, we forget about healthcare, we forget about very key issues that affect Mwananchi.